Good afternoon, my friends. This is Paul, and today I'm going to be reviewing Coffee Shop for the Nintendo Switch. This is the kind of game that, like Undertale, is best enjoyed if you know as little information as possible going in. However, this review would only be like 15 seconds long if I did that, and that would be not worth putting on YouTube. So I'm going to try to talk as little as possible and let you go in knowing next to nothing about the actual story. So, you're the owner of a coffee shop, and your job is to pour coffee. That's literally the crux of the entire game, is really just pouring coffee. You don't get to choose what to say, you don't really get to do anything, you don't even get to directly intervene if a situation arises. You're here to listen to people talk, sometimes to consult them, but mostly to pour coffee. So, between all of these long, drawn-out story sections, the customer will have a request, and you'll be asked to fulfill it. They start out pretty easy, like this regular here, Freya, will ask for an espresso, which just means nothing but coffee. That's nice, but eventually you might get something a lot more complex. Usually people will comment on how sweet, bitter, warm, or cool the coffee is, and so you have to keep a look at on-screen percentage meters that tell you how much you're steering in the direction of what they want. So ultimately, this is a game about really, really paying attention to what people are saying if you want to get the most out of it. Because if you really want to be the best barista and therefore get a better ending, you're going to need to actually try to give the customers what they want. Now, regarding the ending, it's actually pretty easy to get to. I would say that this game is relatively on the short side if you just want to beat the main story. However, if you want to get the true ultimate hidden ending, you're going to need to have at least one other playthrough of the game in order to fully appreciate everything. Now, upon completing the game and getting different milestones in the story, you actually unlock art gallery pieces that give you a little bit of director's cut of what the characters used to look like, what maybe an early version of the game was, and overall it's a nice insight into not only how much progress that you've made in the story, but also to sort of see oh wow, a game with this simplistic of an art style still went through a lot of trial and error. Now, in case you don't like the scenery here, I'm afraid to say that this is pretty much what you get. It never stops raining outside, and you never really go anywhere outside of this coffee shop. So if you like scenic variety, this is definitely not the game for you, especially if you realize, well, owning a coffee shop is more than just pouring coffee. You also have to, say, clean the bathrooms, wipe the floors. Nope, you're doing none of that. You're just serving coffee. But you're also listening to what the customers are saying, reading their body language, and trying really hard to put your observational skills to the test. So ultimately, if you are the type of person that's not a huge fan of heavy storytelling, of which this game pretty much just hits you over the head with lots and lots and lots of exposition, you are not going to like Coffee Talk, especially because it's usually pretty drawn out, the moments in between pouring the coffee and talking to the customers. Also, if you're only in it for pouring coffee, there is an endless mode where you can just make whatever combination you want, and a lot of the recipes are actually based on real-world drinks from all over the globe, but that's not really going to progress the story. At the very least, you have a cell phone that keeps track of all the recipes you've discovered, so you can always check that if you want to remember how to brew something later. And you also have the option to choose the music, which not only is that cool, but it's basically this game's way of having an in-game soundtrack player without needing to exit into a separate menu like most games do. So it's like a literal iPod where you get to choose the music as you go along. You also have a social media profile bar that says how much you know about each character. So completionists will take a lot of joy in how far along they've got their relationships going with the customers. I feel like I'm really padding out the script, and that's because I feel like even just a little bit that I'm saying is really going to ruin the experience for you. So I suggest that you take my word for it, the story starts out simple, but then things get gradually much more complex and interesting. And while there's a lot of references to more adult stuff, they also get into really, really creative territory later on, especially when a certain not native speaker shows up. And that's all I'm going to say. So with that, I give Coffee Talk for the Nintendo Switch a solid 15 out of 20. I would probably rate it a 20/20 based on the twist at the end, but unfortunately, because there's not too much here in terms of gameplay and actual critical decision making, it's a little bit closer more to the 10 out of 20 range for me. But if you really like story and you don't care about the in-between moments, then it's probably more closer to a 17 out of 20, depending on how you like your plots. So with that, thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions, concerns, critiques, etc., please let me know in the comments section. And until the next time, keep the faith, stay epic, God bless, and just remember that running a coffee shop has a lot more duties, especially cleaning those toilets. Bye!